G'day guys, Australia's largest singles tournament is coming up in a couple of weeks and I am stuck on which list I should run for this event. So what I thought could be fun is to go through all of my potential lists with you in today's video, and then you can let me know in the comment section which list you would like to see me take, and then I'll do a deep dive and analysis of the event and post-event, breaking down how well that list performed. So with that being said, let's get stuck into some army lists.
Exalted.
Unlike some other gaming systems, Warhammer 40k often requires an absolute boatload of dice to play. For example, watch me roll out my attacks with these 20 Khorne berserkers. Follow the links in the description to get your exalted dice today. Alrighty guys, for today's video we're going to be using my army list comparison tool. You can download this for free at exalted40k.com. I did a video recently on this channel explaining how it works, so feel free to jump over and get that. And it's a nice little tool that you can use to compare lists, and it makes this process a little bit easier. So we're going to jump straight in. This list, I'm calling it just list number 1. And this is a variation of a list that I took to RatCon recently, which was a tournament that I won, took first place overall with, so I'm very confident with this list and I'm very happy with it. It was changed slightly to account for the balanced data slate changes, where the Exalted 8-bound and the Slaughterbound package went up a little bit. However, all I had to do to make that work was swap out one unit of Spawn for a unit of Jackals, and now the list fits. So the list is pretty straightforward. You've got Kharn the Betrayer, you got a unit of Khorne Berserkers, you got a Rhino for those guys, then you've got the Slaughterbound with the Berserker's Glaive in a unit of Exalted 8-bound, then you've got a Hellbrute, 2 Chaos Spawn units, a unit of 8-bound, 2 Forge Fiends, a unit of Jackals, and then our sort of modular sort of picks are another unit of Jackals, a Demon Prince, another Hellbrute, and another unit of 8-bound. So it's essentially 2 units of 8-bound, 2 units of Jackals, 2 Hellbrutes, a Demon Prince, and then those 2 Forge Fiends and the packages, the Kharn and the Rhino, the Berserkers, and the Slaughterbound. So that's the list that I'm very confident with and I'm very happy with, right? So that's our baseline. And every time I'm going to a new tournament, what I essentially do is I look at what did I take last tournament? Is it still good? Has the meta shifted in any particular way that makes this no longer viable? And did it perform as well as I was expecting, or is there areas that I'd like to change? And I think the answer to those is largely no. Like, I don't think the meta has shifted too dramatically. Yes, there are some big shake-ups, like the Nightbringers and the Catan, the Vitrix, all of those sorts of things. They've come into play. However, I think this list has the same tools that I would take if I was to try to optimize against those things. Like the Slaughterbound with the Glaive, he's relatively good into the Nightbringer. Kharn and his Berserkers is okay into him. And then you've got a little bit of shooting, which is important because it allows you to sort of soften them up a little bit before you go in. And then you've got things like the Lone Op Demon Prince is really cool. Hellbrutes being able to fight multiple times is really, really cool. So this has got a lot of tools for dealing with those sorts of things. And then also into the things like your Vitrix, it's got a ton of high AP 3 damage attacks from the Forge Fiends, from the Hellbrutes, that sort of stuff. So this is my baseline, and this is what we're trying to beat. Now, this second list is a variation on that, where you can see that both lists have the Kharn Berserker Rhino package, both lists have the Slaughterbound package, both lists have the Hellbrute, couple of Spawn, 8-bound, couple Forge Fiends, and some Jackals. But the main change here is that instead of the Jackals, the Demon Prince, the Hellbrute, and the 8-bound, we drop all of that, and instead we get a third Forge Fiend and Angron. Now this is really interesting because the third Forge Fiend really pushes the shooting capacity of this list up, and then Angron goes in as an absolute monster and beats the crap out of things. So he kind of fulfills the damage output of like the Demon Prince and the Hellbrute, and then the Forge Fiend kind of fulfills some of that damage output as well. So I think the damage output in this list is significantly higher, but the downside to this list is it's got 2 fewer units. Now, comparing numbers of units is a really good way of looking at a list, because you need to make sure that you have disposable units that can run out and do actions and things like that whilst the rest of your army gets stuck into the fight. So sometimes bringing on a Hellbrute from strategic reserves just so that he can do recover assets in a corner, and then later in the game he jumps out and starts punching on with things, is a really, really powerful strategy. So losing 2 units in order to gain all of that additional power is a bit concerning. However, Angron does have a few things going for him. Like, for example, if your opponent has lots of neg 1 to hit, he can have his aura, which turns that off. In certain matchups, he's going to be able to lock your opponent in combat. He also gives you in other sort of setups, you can have him getting you additional blessings rolls, making it much more likely to get your dev wounds into those matchups where you're versing things that have invulnerable saves. So if I was to take Angron, I think this is probably the direction I'd go, because it's the closest to my original list, but with some key differences. Then I decided I wanted to have a look at what the list would look like if I tried to squeeze in more units. You know, if I didn't want to lose all of my units, how could I rearrange things to get a couple more units and include Angron as well? So in this one, you can see that it's still got the Khan package in the Rhino. It's still got the Slaughterbound with the Glaive and the 8-bound. Then it basically takes this middle package but drops one of the spawn. So we've got a Hellbrute, Spawn, 8-bound, Double Forge Fiend, Jackals. And then with the rest, it adds another unit of Jackals, Angron, a Hellbrute, and the Goremongers. So essentially, it's kind of like the first list, but you've got one less unit of Spawn, right? Because you lose that Spawn unit there. You've got your Jackals, they're the same. You've got your Hellbrute, they're the same. So you lose a unit of Spawn, you downgrade your 8-bound into Goremongers, and that frees up the points to upgrade your Demon Prince into Angron. So this one has one additional unit when compared to this at the second list, which is really, really helpful, like I said, for those, you know, actions and things like that. It also has the Goremongers, which is kind of nice as like an infiltrating unit that can go up there and facilitate your scout moves on the 8-bound and the Spawn that you do have. So there's a lot going for this list. So this could be an interesting option as well. Then we start getting a little bit spicy, so we come over into this fourth list. Again, it's got Khan, Berserkers, Rhino. It's got Slaughterbound, Glaive, 8-bound. This one has the full suite, the core of the list, which is the Hellbrute, the 2 Spawn, the 8-bound, the Double Forge Fiend, and the Jackals. But then down here, instead of Angron or the Demon Prince, we're just going with 2 more Hellbrutes and 2 more Exalted 8-bound. So that means you're going to have 3 units of Exalted 8-bound. Now, this is optimizing for a very mech-heavy meta, because the Exalted 8-bound are amazing at killing mech, as are the Hellbrutes. And they're also, all of that's really high AP. So that also optimizes for things like your Terminators and stuff like that. Hellbrutes are actually pretty good into things that are neg 1 damage, because being D6 plus 1, it means they're just getting those D6 damage hits through with the Thunderhammer. And if they're neg 1 damage and only 2 wounds, you just go in with your 3 damage fists. So that's a cool list. That has the same number of units as my original list. So as the Ratcon list that won Ratcon, it's got the same number of units. However, you're essentially swapping Jackals, Demon Prince, and 8-bound for 2 Exalted 8-bound and a Hellbrute. So I think it's probably the original's better, just because the Demon Prince giving you the CP economy is really, really good, because sometimes you'll not do anything for the first couple of turns. You use 1 strat each battle round, you get it for free from the Demon Prince. So by the time you get into battle round 3, you've got like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 command points, depending on, you know, what you've achieved. And doing that means that you're going to be able to go, cool, on this turn when you hit me, I'm going to neg 1 damage, and I'm going to interrupt, and I'm going to kill something with that interrupt, and then I'm going to turn on fights on death, so that the next thing that hits me fights, and then I get to fight on death with something else. You get some, like, you can create some really crazy combos by just blowing all 5 CP in one turn, and that creates situations where you actually can just present your whole army, and then just be like, I don't care, you can kill it, because you can come at me because I've got enough CP to make it really hard for you. So the Demon Prince is really good for that, and he's not in any of these other 3 lists. He's only in the first one. So there's the first 4 lists. If we head up now and we head over to, we're going to get into some a little bit more janky ones, but I think they're valid, and I think they're worth considering. This one has Khan, 10 Berserkers in a Land Raider, right? Then it's also got the Slaughterbound, the Berserkers, Glaive, the 8-bound, etc. Then it's got that same core of the list: the Hellbrute, the Spawn, the Eightbound, the Exalted, the Forge Fiends, and the Jackals. So that same sort of core of the list. And then down here you got two Hellbrutes and a single 8-bound. So you can see that the list is the same as the previous one. 4 and 5 are the same. The only difference is you drop 1 unit of Exalted 8-bound and use those points to turn your Rhino into a frickin' Land Raider. Now, that's pretty good because, first of all, it gives you a bunch of shooting. So now you got 2 Forge Fiends and a Land Raider, which is very effective shooting. And the Land Raider is effective shooting into things that the rest of the army isn't particularly effective shooting into, like big toughness 11 knights and things like that. Even transports, the Forge Fiends can struggle to get through transports sometimes, like toughness 10 transports, whereas the Land Raider with its 8 las cannon shots actually does pretty good. It also allows you to get around reactive moves because Khan's unit can move the Land Raider up and then disembark, and that disembarkation doesn't trigger a reactive move. So you can move to 9 inches away, just outside of 9, then you can disembark out your 3 inches, and instead of trying to go for a 9-inch charge into those reactive moving targets, you're now going for a 6-inch charge, which is quite nice. It also allows you to play around with Overwatch. Sometimes if you disembark somewhere, you go to move, your opponent can Overwatch you, whereas you can just go, cool, I'm actually going to move the Land Raider over here, disembark on this side of the wall, now you can't shoot me, and then I'm going to charge from that position. So there's a few things that the Land Raider does that I think are quite cute and really, really good. And it's also just tough as hell, right? Compared to a Rhino, it's very tough. Much harder to hide and quite a bit slower because it's so big, it's kind of cumbersome and hard to get around the place. But it's interesting, and I think it's fucking cool as shit. And I would love to play this. So please convince me in the comment section to play this one. The 6th list that I've got, it's got Khan, your Khorne Berserkers in your Land Raider again. It's got that same Slaughterbound combo. You notice they're in almost every list because they're fantastic. Then we've got Hellbrutes, Chaos Spawn, 8-bound, a single Forge Fiend, and Jackals. So that's central package. We've dropped a Forge Fiend off of what we normally have. But we've used those points to get Hellbrute, Spawn, and Angron. So now we've got a Forge Fiend and a Land Raider for our shooting threats, but then we're also adding in Angron. So now we've got 2 big, scary, tough things that are 2-up saves, high toughness, lots of wounds, which is Angron and the Land Raider. So what you can do with this is you can sort of tool the rest of your army around killing things that are effective at killing tough things with 2-up saves. So any high AP things your opponent has, you can sort of try to engineer it so the rest of your army either eliminates or isolates that threat, and then you go, cool, now that I've eliminated and isolated that threat, Angron and the Land Raider can go in this direction and they're untouchable. So that's kind of cool, and I think this is probably the coolest of all the lists because it's got Angron and the fucking Land Raider, which is something really novel and really cool and would be tons of fun to play. Then we go into another one here which has got, this is list number 7, that's got Khan, Berserkers, Land Raider, Slaughterbound, Glaive, 8-bound. Then again, this same sort of central package with the drop the Forge Fiend, and then it's got a Hellbrute, Spawn, Demon Prince, and Exalted 8-bound. So it's similar to this first list. It's quite similar. It basically drops a Forge Fiend in favor of Spawn. Yeah, drops a Forge Fiend and turns the Rhino into a Land Raider. That's right. So in that first one, you've got two. This one here, list number 1, you've got 2 Forge Fiends, and a Rhino, and in this one, you've got 1 Forge Fiend, but you've got a Land Raider. And then we use some of those excess points to upgrade that second unit of Jackals back into a second unit of Spawn. So now you've got 3 units of Spawn. This one's probably the closest to my original list. I've essentially just dropped a Forge Fiend, used that to make the Rhino a Land Raider. And a Rhino and a Forge Fiend essentially come together to become a Land Raider. And that does some interesting things because it essentially upgrades your Forge Fiend's shooting from those strength 10 shots into strength 12 shots. And from 3 damage to D6 plus 1 damage. So they become significantly better in shooting, the Forge Fiend does. And then the Rhino becomes significantly better as a transport because now it's tougher, it's got the salt ramp capacity. And the other thing that's worth noting about the Land Raider is it can have 8-bound inside of it. So there'll be times where you'll send Khan's unit out early, and then you'll be able to go, cool, well, now that 8-bound unit that was hiding behind this ruin, it's going to jump inside that Land Raider. And it's going to wait until next turn, and then it's going to go out and do its thing. So you're able to use the Land Raider as a staging platform for 8-bound, which you can't do with a Rhino. So there's some significant reasons why that one, list number 7, is interesting. It's essentially the same thing that I've been using for a while, so I'm very familiar with it. I know it works, and the main difference is that we drop a Forge Fiend and turn the Rhino into a Land Raider. So I quite like that. Then list number 8, now this is one that a lot of people are trying to get me to run. I'm not super confident with it, but I'm open to the idea. And that is, we've got Khan, Berserkers in a Rhino, Slaughterbound with Glaive and Exalted. Then we have a unit of Spawn, 2 units of 8-bound, a unit of Jackals, and then we have a Juggerlord with 20 Khorne Berserkers and Invocatus with 20 Khorne Berserkers. So that one is very, very strong, and the idea here is that you deploy Khan and his 10 Berserkers in your Rhino, and you deploy the Juggerlord with his 20 Berserkers hidden behind a ruin somewhere, and then in reserves you have your Exalted 8-bound and Lord Invocatus' unit, and both of those can arrive via Deep Strike Rapid Ingress, which is fucking crazy for 20 Khorne Berserkers to do. And then the idea is that basically you use Khan and his 10 to go probably over onto your expansion, your safe objective, because they're in the Rhino, they're fast, they can get there. And then the other one stays staged somewhere central, so that if anybody comes anywhere near the middle of the board, that 20-man with the Juggerlord can come out and destroy them. One of my challenges with this, and I did a video talking about the 20-man Khorne Berserkers, is and I've watched tons of games with them, I've played a couple with the 20-mans, and I just find that your opponent is almost always able to bait you out into bad trades, where they throw something out onto an objective and you're like, okay, cool, I don't have 8-bound left, or I don't have any good answers to that. A couple of Spawn isn't enough, but I don't want to throw away 20 Khorne Berserkers. So you're in these really tricky spots, and that really frustrated me when I was playing it, like what my opponent was able to do, and I kind of didn't have much of an answer. So that's my concern with that one. However, the idea of getting 50 Khorne Berserkers on the battlefield is very, very attractive to me, so I'm interested in that. And then to sort of drive home that Khorne Berserker point, I've put list 1 here again, just so that we can see them side by side. And you can see that both of them have that package, both of them have that package, both of them have Spawn, 2 units of 8-bound and a unit of Jackals, but in one you've got these 2 units. Juggerlord with his 20, Invocatus with his 20. Right? That's 2 units. Whereas this one has 7 units in that space. 2 Forge Fiends, a Spawn, 2 Hellbrutes, a Demon Prince, and another unit of Jackals. So when you conceptualize that, like, it just shows you how many units you lose when you prioritize the 20-man bricks. Now, an argument could be made that instead of, maybe you drop one of these 20-man bricks and get half of this and just have a single 20-man. But I think it's kind of, if I'm going to go down that route, I'd want to go all of the way down that route. And I do have 100 Khorne Berserkers over there painted, ready to go. So if people want to see that, that's definitely something I can do, and I can sort of share my learnings. The event in question is called Adelaide Uprising. It's the largest event in Australia. It's been running for a few years. This is the last time they're going to run it, so it's going to be a really exciting event. It's 8 rounds. It's WTC FAQ, but it's GW terrain. Which is quite interesting. It's an interesting combination you don't see very often. So I think, given that it's GW terrain, it really does make those 20-man Berserker units very unattractive, because they're going to be very hard to hide. And it does make things like the Land Raider a little bit more attractive, because if you can't hide it, it's like it doesn't really matter, because it's a fucking Land Raider. It's pretty hard to kill. Especially a World Eaters one, like if they charge it with something, you just go, cool, neg 1 damage, you're not killing this thing, like it's tough as hell. One of the other good things about the Land Raider compared to the Forge Fiend in terms of shooting is the Land Raider doesn't have any blast weapons. So you can actually play quite aggressively with your Land Raider, and if somebody goes, oh cool, I'm just going to charge and tag your Land Raider, it can just shoot its way out of combat. So that's quite interesting as well. There's nothing worse than when somebody tags your Forge Fiend and you're like, cool, if I stay in combat I do nothing, but if I fall back I do nothing, and then you just charge me again. And like, yeah, I get to do an Overwatch, but Overwatch isn't killing a lot of things. It'll kill a couple models out of each unit, but they're just going to tag you again. And it can be really, really frustrating when you're playing a Forge Fiend. Whereas the Land Raider, you can actually play it a little bit more aggressively and keep your second Forge Fiend in reserves, and it's the one that comes on into somewhere where it's safe, blasts something, and then has good lines down the board. It's also shorter range than the Land Raider, so that means that you might want to put it in strategic reserve so that it can come on in range where it wants to be, and then the Land Raider can sort of position centrally. The Land Raider also has a ton of OC as well, so there's lots of pros for the Land Raider. So let me know what you guys think about this. Which list would you run? Which list would you like to see me run? So just to recap, just to sort of quickly summarize them, is we've got the first list is my Ratcon GT winning list, which is Khan, Berserker's Rhino, Slaughterbound, then my core package, which is Hellbrute, 2 Spawn, 8-bound, 2 Forge Fiends, Jackals, and then a supplementary or a sideboard of Jackals, Demon Prince, Hellbrute, 8-bound. Then the second list takes that core list, drops the Jackals, the Demon Prince, the Hellbrute, and the 8-bound for a third Forge Fiend and Angron. The other list takes that same original list, drops a unit of Spawn, and gets a unit of Spawn and a unit of 8-bound, uses those points to upgrade the Demon Prince into Angron. Then the last one keeps that same core package, but essentially drops the Demon Prince, the Jackals, and uses that to get another Hellbrute and 2 units of Exalted 8-bound. Then we go into the Land Raider lists, where you've basically you drop the Rhino, you upgrade it to a Land Raider. One of them, in order to do that, you essentially drop a unit of Exalted 8-bound. Another one, you drop a Forge Fiend in order to do that. Then we talk about the one that has the Land Raider and Angron in it, which is kind of cool. We have the one that's like my core list, and then we have the 20-man brick. So they're my 8 top lists, 8 top World Eaters lists, and I need your help choosing. So if you could do me a solid and jump in the comments section and let me know which of these lists you think is the coolest, and I will run one of them at Adelaide Uprising this year, and I'll be recording every single round. I'll do a recap of every round. I'll get some photos, if I remember to, of the table and my opponent's list and all that sort of stuff, and I'll break down what works, what didn't work, any good moves I make, any mistakes that I make. I'll share that all with you guys, and it should be really exciting. And again, if you want to grab this really nifty list comparison tool, head over to exalted40k.com. There's tons of stuff on there. There's a lot of really cool features. There's web stores. There's all kinds of fun stuff. This is my most recent edition, and basically, you just copy paste from this list of units here, which has got all the units in the World Eaters arsenal, and you basically copy and paste them into these cells here, and that allows you to sort of put 2 lists side by side, and you can compare them by scrolling without having to have multiple things on your app and whatnot. So I find this is a much easier way to compare lists. Hopefully you guys found it useful here as well. It's free, so go grab it. And if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, all that good shit. And let me know in the comment section what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. G'day guys, check out our merchandise at exalted40k.com, including sets of range rulers with 9, 6, 3, 2 and 1 inch faces, as well as 1 inch markings all the way along, making quick and accurate measurements a breeze. Rectangular blessings trackers for convenient record keeping, and chain axe blessing trackers for when merely taking records is not good enough. Dice and dice trays that in tandem ensure your rolls do not betray you like a certain someone on the killing fields of Scalathrax. Objective markers for an exalted gaming experience that are just begging to be drowned in the blood of friend or foe on the battlefield. Show your support for the channel and head over to exalted40k.com to equip yourself as an exalted wargamer today.